And we are live on Facebook.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone. We are welcoming you to Universal Heart Wisdom. And I'm Deborah Haviland. I'm the host of this show. And the show is now going to be on Monday nights, 6 p.m. California time and 9 p.m. East Coast time. And you may be in other zones, so you can figure it out. And I created this show because for me, living a life through our heart is what I see is essential at always, and definitely at these times. So the universal heart wisdom is a sense of the unity that we're all one human family, and also the unity tonight with our animal friends, and specifically horses, which are such deep, amazing, sensitive beings. So I am a love coach with the Love Coach Academy. I have invited Scott Catamas, who has been a mentor for me and created the Love Coach Academy. He's my co-host tonight and empowering me in my show. So thank you, Scott, for all the amazing work you do with Love Coach Academy and also with Saturday Night Alive.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know really it's our presence that counts. It's who we are that's here, speaking and listening and shining through our eyes. And I just want you to know also that as a love coach, I care a lot about people and work with individuals and families and groups. And I also am a healthy lifestyle coach and lead spiritual retreats. And so spirit has been a core focus for my life. And that's why I created Universal Heart Wisdom. And we've invited a very exciting guest on tonight, Chris Irwin. And I first heard Chris Irwin on Saturday Night Alive a few weeks ago, and he just inspired me so much. Just seeing him as a world-renowned horseman, that he works with behavior and behavioral science, that he's an international best-selling author, has written several books that he'll be telling us about, and a leading pioneer in the evolution of horse training with his deep sensitivity for listening to horses and equine psychology and horse sense for human potential. So this is very exciting. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. And hello again, Scott.
Hey, Chris, it's great to have you with us. And I want to acknowledge all the people in our Zoom room and also those of you watching on Facebook. I'm going to be kind of monitoring any thoughts, comments, and questions that come in. So please interact with us. And thanks for joining us.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, and tell your friends and share this to their pages too. So, Chris, I know you've done so many amazing things. I'd love for you to just get into sharing with us a little bit more about your, your history and what you've done with your career. How did you get into this wonderful work with horses and developing your deep intuition?
Well, thank you. That's a good question. That's a good place to start. Um, Classic story, actually. High school dropout, runaway kid from a highly dangerous, dysfunctional family.
Mm,
Very violent father.
wow.
So kind of an enigma in the sense that I responded to my family by striving for excellence. So I was a scout, an athlete, a musician. I just channeled obsessively into different practices as a response to what I had at home. And it all more or less came crashing down at the age of 16 when I won the gold medal that I'd been working for so long, blood, sweat, and tears, 16 years old, and standing on the podium in my hometown with 50,000 people cheering. It was rowing crew. I was international oarsman up in Canada. And I broke down in tears.
Good
And
for
I
you.
had this, and they weren't happy tears.
Oh.
I broke down in tears on the podium while everyone was applauding because I realized that I'd put so much I mean, it's practically physical torture to train at that level and win at that level.
Yeah.
And I realized in that moment that I had not done it for the love of sport. I'd done it for the need for recognition. And that just hit me so consciously. And in that moment, and this was 1976, I kind of switched and became very counterculture. My response to the violence and the dysfunction at home, my response to hypocrisy and leadership. I did not see a lot of love. I was going to the church. I was aspiring to be a good Christian boy, and I was seeing the dark side of everything at that age. And I ended up at the age of 16 living on the streets and became homeless.
Wow.
And wandering around. I was an Eagle Scout, so I had no problem surviving. I became a ski bum. And it was wandering around vision questing, reading all the spiritual books and hitchhiking with my guitar, looking for meaning, looking for some kind of truth. I was seriously on a walkabout for between the ages of 16 and 20. And at 20, I found myself in Seattle playing a guitar on the street to survive. Pike Street Market. Some people listening would know that. And I needed to work. It was getting too cold to play outside. And I heard they were hiring at the racetrack daily. Just go work for the day and get paid cash under the table at the end of the day. And when I went to the track, I took the bus out to the racetrack. And when I got there, and I walked around behind the barns where all the horses were, behind the track, I had the most powerful experience of my life in that moment. And I've been through a lot by now at this age.
Yes.
And when I saw the horses, it was like I started bubbling from the inside out. I got the goosebumps, the sights, the sounds, the smells, and I knew that I'd found what I was looking for. Wow. And truly, at the end of that day, I got hired. And that day, the end of that day, the trainer that hired me said, "Kid, you're a natural. Do you want a job?" That was at 20 that it began. And I was obsessed with it. And I didn't know until between the age of 20 and 30, am I going to be a musician or a horseman? A musician to make a living. And I was on a very wounded journey of healing. I had so much trauma to deal with. And it was for the musicians that are listening to this, there's basically two types of musicians: those who learn theory and learn how to read music and go on to play music, and those who never learn theory or to read music and they play by ear. And so with the horses, I was playing by ear. With the music, I was playing by ear. I was just obstinate about learning by myself as I go. And that turned out to be a really good thing with the horses. I've written 2 books to describe what happens over the next 20 years. But I landed with horses at the age of 20, a very highly idealistic, conflicted seeker, spiritual seeker. And from that perspective, I approached them, I think, a little differently than if I had grown up in it.
Yes.
Fast, that's at 20. By the age of 30, I had so many broken bones, so many bad wrecks, so many horrible stories, and was literally learning what not to do. And by the age of 30, all of a sudden, it's working. By the age of 40, I've written a book about it. 20 years has gone by, and then boom. My coming of age of around 40 was right around the same time the whole horse whispering thing hit the popular culture.
Perfect is that?
Robert Redford's movie and Monty Roberts. And
I love that movie.
And And I was seeing the Hollywood glamorization of it all.
Mhm.
And at the same time, so many people who'd seen the movie and read this first book, The Horse Whisperer, were saying to me, but this is what you actually do. And it's not at all what they're portraying in the movies. So I wrote a book about it, and then boom. Now, none of that is how
And which is the book?
I work with the horses. That's just the background of the kid who found himself with the horses. Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh, what a story.
I
And
want
obviously, you were when kids have been traumatized like that, you're working with a trust issue. So I can really empathize that you were looking like, what could you really trust, and therefore that does develop a sixth sense. Like we have to really
Mhm.
trust our own intuition, and where is it safe, where it's safe, and what works. And you don't want any hypocrisy or any BS or yes. So I can
Yeah.
really see how you went with that
Yeah.
track and look where it led you.
Yes. Something
Amazing.
else I think, I'm sorry, Scott, were you jumping in there?
Actually, it's very similar to what Deborah just pointed out. I just appreciated that your life's journey was such that you went from chaos and a really crazy situation. You knew enough to get out, and then
Yeah.
seeking, and the combination of playing music by ear, working with the
Mhm.
horses by ear, same thing. You cultivated a deep sense of trust and really trusting your own inner guidance, your own inner wisdom. And I think that's just such an important foundational piece, probably for where you're about to go in terms of your story. So,
Exactly. Exactly. And
Wonderful. Thank
it,
you.
it's
Thank you.
it's important to recognize too that this didn't happen overnight.
right.
I mean, it was a journey.
Yeah, it
It
was
still
hard
is a
knocks.
journey. It's all, the journey never ends in that sense. But yeah, those first 20 years, it's been 40 years now with horses, and the first 20 years was very often it was the dark night of the soul,
Mhm.
Mhm.
because for a very long period of time, because I did approach it as a spiritual warrior, and I did become, it's a whole nother story. How do you become good at it? And good at it enough to the point where you're constantly called in to work with highly traumatized horses. And when you're working, when you get that reputation to be able to be the one to exorcise demons out of highly traumatized horses, that's all you get, because there are a lot of them out there. So it gets to the point when people hear about my work and they hear about the horse whispering shtick and all of that, they think about the light. And for me, more often than not, it was dealing with a lot of darkness, not just my own demons as a child, but highly traumatized horses who have been victimized by human beings. And so where that journey takes you in yourself and with the horses and with the people who bring you those horses. Yeah, it's very, for me, I mean, maybe it's Easter that's swaying me into this tone, but
Mhm.
yeah, it has been a journey with the epitome of the brighter the light, the darker the shadow.
And
It's
yet you
both.
have been, obviously you have been bringing the light in. I mean, that's so much what healing is, the empathy. That's what we do in Love Coach Academy, that you had empathy for the horses. You knew that dark place. You knew what it is to be abused and not treated with respect. And so um, what a deep journey and mission of compassion and empathy that you were bringing, that empathy and compassion to the horses, and somehow from your own journey learning how to bring the light into the darkness.
Exactly. And in that, what that process was, I will say that in the beginning, although that initial primal animal attraction to them was there, um, the compassion and the empathy was something that was developed. It was not enough in the beginning.
Hmm.
I didn't have enough of that to give in the beginning. So to me, the fascinating journey is developing it,
And how
having
do
it
you
as
do that?
having it as an intention, but realizing, no, I don't have enough. I didn't have enough empathy. I didn't have enough patience. I had to develop it. I really did. And I
Developing it
think
is important.
that's really important for people to recognize now,
Yes.
that people on the surface who might appear to be very much centered and at peace and with spirit and full of love and compassion and empathy, that's developed.
Yes.
I
It is.
use the analogy of calluses as a musician. So to play the guitar, I have calluses on my fingertips.
Right.
And if I didn't go through that pain when they blistered in the beginning, or if I stopped playing for a while and pick it up, they hurt. And a good musician, specifically what I'm talking about, the guitar, I have to callus my fingertips. Now I can play beautiful music that people appreciate hearing, but I wouldn't be able to play it without those calluses.
Yep.
And I've realized that a lifetime with the horses has done that to my heart. It's
Mm.
strong, but it's calloused. And that's actually a beautiful thing between what happened to me as a child and what I've seen and experienced in this industry of 40 years. It's like 40 years of being a good cop, trying to be a good cop.
Mm.
It's not 40 years of being a priest. It was 40 years of being a priest and a cop and a doctor all rolled into one, and a psychologist all rolled into one. So you come out of it with, I mean, the amount of resilience needed to not have compassion fatigue and to callous your heart enough that it gets to the point where now the human condition doesn't get through that callous. The human condition doesn't break my heart anymore.
Hmm.
It has, the horses have made it, working with the horses and working with the people working with the horses has calloused my heart the way playing the guitar has calloused my fingers. So it allows me to be stronger, have a lion's heart, and not feel like a victim to this world. To me, that's the greatest gift I've gotten from them.
That is a wonderful gift. That's so well said. And I think, I mean, I can relate totally. I can relate that any place
I can
that's
see
been
it. I can
hard and
see
tough and
it.
painful and,
Yeah.
divorce or, you know, oh my God, being a dancer my entire life and developing calluses on the feet and
Mhm.
injuring my knee and
Mhm.
having a knee replacement. I mean, just everything. And audience out there, I imagine everyone right now can reflect on where it's been tough and hard, or it's hurt, or really painful, or it doesn't seem fair, or anything that's happened. When we can find the light in the darkness and somehow find our own skills and intuitive solutions, and also to find good coaches, to find
Yes.
trainers, because it is developing the muscles
Yes.
of empathy and the
Yes.
muscles of patience,
Oh, it's so
muscles of
refreshing to hear someone
perseverance.
say that.
What
It's
what
so refreshing to hear you say that.
Well, you've brought up a really good point that we're talking about here for a moment, which is that we are not born with emotional intelligence.
No,
We are not born with compassion.
no.
They literally, in fact, the empathy center of the brain doesn't even begin to develop until we're pretty well into childhood.
Yeah.
And anybody at any age can cultivate greater emotional intelligence and cultivate compassion, like you said, by building those muscles, by getting those calluses. So it's not like you either have it or you don't. It's
Yeah.
something to cultivate.
It's something we can build, it's something we
Yeah.
can develop. Yes,
Mhm.
so important, and to want it, and to know that we
Yeah.
need it, and yeah, some people will be in denial or whatever, but somehow we come to our own bottoms, of whatever we're learning, where we suddenly have to realize, okay, I've got to get this, I've got to learn this, and I need these skills to keep going forward. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I really see that in your work with horses, it really helps to awaken higher frequencies, more into our soul nature, our purpose. Um, it sounds like you had a dawning or an awakening in there where you started, connecting the dots.
I've had numerous.
Yeah.
They keep coming. They keep coming.
For number 60.
Okay. And please continue. So you were saying they keep coming.
Yeah. Specifically, you just brought up soul purpose a moment ago. As I alluded to earlier, when I was 19, 20 years old and started to work with horses full time for a living, that traumatized young man out to prove himself did have integrity, in terms of wanting to, but I was looking for a purpose. My purpose was to find my purpose. I didn't have it. I was looking for it. And that decade between the age of 20 and 30, working with horses, playing music, skiing, reading a lot.
I'm curious
And
what you were reading, but
well, a lot of the books that I think a lot of us read. The first one that comes to mind back in those days was Spiritual Warrior.
Oh, yes, by Dan Millman.
By Dan Millman. Yep.
I met him. Yeah, he came and spoke at one of my events.
Of a lot of the books I read, that one resonated with me the most because he was telling his story from that athletic background, which I could relate to.
Yeah.
His story sounded somewhat familiar. Mine felt a lot darker. But other books, things like The Celestine Prophecy, I was reading old classics, The Razor's Edge by Somerset Maugham, on and on. But Kerouac, I was reading
Kerouac, yes.
all the classics of the day back then. Jonathan Livingston Seagull, Illusions. Remember Illusions by Richard Bach?
Absolutely.
My favorite book. Illusions. I got to come in for a moment.
Yeah.
Please do.
So she was born on Easter. I was born on Christmas Day, literally. And I grew up with the Messiah complex. I literally thought it was up to me to save the world, Chris. And when I was 18, I was like freaking out, trying to figure out how to save the world because the world was so big. And reading Illusions absolutely was like, oh, it was so wonderful. And then 25 years later, I got a chance to meet Richard Bach in person, interview him. Sweet, wonderful man. So anyway, I just had to jump in because really, Illusions.
I'm glad you did.
Bought 100. It's a small little book.
Yeah.
I probably bought 100 because I gave them to all my friends.
Yeah.
Every friend got an Illusions from me.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
I love the book. Love it.
I was also giving that book out to friends. Yeah. So relating all this to soul purpose, I was consciously on my path seeking my purpose. And at the time, the work with horses was work. And I knew it was good for me, that it was good medicine for me. I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see it as purpose. And meanwhile, I'm reading these books and wondering, musician or horseman, which is it going to be to make my living, to go on. And I had this seminal moment, this aha moment. One of the first ones was, I can't remember which was the last book, when I put it down and said, well, there's yet another book where a mystical, magical master shows up and more or less actually does have to perform some miracles in order to get people's attention, which happen like illusions we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't met that master yet. Like, come on, after all I've been through, I mean, come on, where is he? Where is he? And I can remember sitting with that on a ranch in Nevada. I'm 30 years old. I own my first ranch with my first wife, and sitting out in the field, just journaling, like, what the hell? And I know I've got something with the horses, but I'm my spiritual path. Like, where's the truth? What's happening? Like, and I'm living in an area working with essentially redneck cowboys. So I'm this closet spiritualist trying to find my way with horses, wondering what the hell I'm doing with my life, reading these book after book after book after book. And the epiphany that hit me that day, sitting cross-legged out in the field with the horses, was he's not coming. I have to become one.
Yes, you're it.
I'm it.
Tag, you're it. You
I'm
are
it.
the one you've been waiting for.
I was like, oh shit.
I know.
I was waiting for someone to come do miracles for me so I could finally believe. And then I actually realized, no, I have to do it. That and hearing that resonate through me from the inside out. It was the first time that I consciously heard resonance from the inside out.
Beautiful.
And that moment was when I knew it is the horses, that not the guitar, that it is the horses, and that it's with them, that it's through them, and that I don't know where it's going, but that's where I'm going.
Wow. That is so powerful.
So that was the first aha epiphany where dots connected, and I recognized my purpose is in fact with the horses, but I didn't recognize what that meant. I didn't really get that until I was 50.
So were you meditating? Did you have a way of asking for guidance? Obviously you had a revelation sitting cross-legged in the field with your horses.
Yeah.
And
I've
yet,
been,
which sounds delightful. What a wonderful way to meditate.
I have been meditating. I'm 60. I've been meditating since I was about 25.
Wonderful.
Before that, I learned guided visualization as an athlete when I was a
yes,
teenager.
that's powerful.
That was the first real aha. As a 15-year-old, I had a really great rowing coach who, before the big race, was able to, I was stressed, was able to calm me down with a guided visualization. And I had so much performance anxiety, I didn't want to blow it. And that experience where he got me in a guided, he called it a guided visualization. And
that is so powerful.
That was when the journey really consciously began. Up until then, I was a Boy Scout and an athlete, just, be a good boy, fight the good fight, do the right thing.
Just do it and work hard. Yeah.
And had no concept until that moment that, wow, there's a whole world inside of here and in here that
I love leading guided visualizations, guided meditations. I can really relate to what you're saying. I remember at one point, my first husband was an all-American athlete in 3 sports, swimming, diving, and lacrosse. And I used to do major swimming with him, and I would just have visualizations about winning the race. And then I was steerswoman for my outrigger canoe club in Maui. And the way you visualize it, you're just going to go around that flag and come back and you're just going to win the race, and different dance performances where you get it so in your brain, so I really can relate to that. And yeah, with Jay Mayer and Janice, we do something called light touch, where we do visualizations and calling in what we want to attract and anchoring it into the body. Tony Robbins says anchor it in different ways. And so that's one thing yeah. So anyway, guided visualizations is so useful. I'm sure that's useful for our audience. Just, yeah, this is so exciting hearing about your life. Wow. The skill sets that you have developed. I thought of Gandhi as you were talking because, Gandhi really went through hard knocks. I mean, I remember his story where he was somehow just shamed and criticized on a train ride, and he just wanted to give up, and he just had to keep going. And in the end, his saying that my dad even had on his memorial pamphlet, be the change in the world that you wish to find. Yeah. So important. And at this time, we are really all being called. We are being called. The time has come for us to stand up and bring in way more honesty, nobleness. And yeah, there's some things I want to ask you. Like, one thing was in working with horses and then how it relates to compassionate communication and empathy. I'm curious because I know in working with the horses, you're wanting to avoid triggers, or you're wanting to calm their nervous system down, and likewise with communication, I'm always choosing words that will avoid triggers, or how can I say this in the most yummy, peaceful way. So I'm curious how you work with the horses to bring them into these deep states. I watched one of your videos where they're both standing beside you, the ones with the white and those beautiful markings. Oh my gosh. I forget their names.
William and Charlie.
William and Charlie. So
Yeah.
tell us about that. Gosh, just how they're really, I know one magazine said the horses just see you as God. Literally, they're so at peace with you.
Yeah, well, that's an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through a not necessarily peaceful process to get to the outcome. Yeah, okay, so there was a number of questions there.
So just pick the one that you want to speak about.
Well, I'll start at the end and then kind of unravel it backwards. We
Beautiful.
talked about William and Charlie and their behavior. That actually does kind of become my, pardon the pun, brand in the horse industry is the way the horses behave. Not just mine. I have hundreds of certified coaches around the world that do this work beautifully. So the horses, as we are, as all animals are, but to a much more heightened sense, the horses are very somatic, meaning their body is their mind. There is no separation at all. And their biomechanics, how their body moves. So by biomechanics, think yoga, think Tai Chi, Pilates, how you're moving, dance, biomechanics. Different movements in different shapes in their spinal column create different chemistries. So nature designed a horse to move in specific ways to trigger adrenaline for flight or fight, and to move in different ways for a nice endorphin rush while eating grass. So like we talk about everything from breathing to the kundalini coming up through your spine, the energy in them, their behavior is very much the effect of their biochemistry, which is at the effect of their shape. So sayings like you're getting worked up, this is our history with horses. As a horse gets its head up and up and up, and its back goes hollow like a hammock, that shape in its spine produces massive amounts of adrenaline. On the other hand, when the head goes all the way down to the ground, they calm down. So you don't see anxiety-ridden horses with their head on the ground. Now, there is a case where a horse can have its head down low all the time and be self-medicating, being like a sullen, dopey horse. a shut down horse. So their body shapes affect their biochemistry, affect their behavior, how they feel. Now, those shapes are at the effect of everything. Nature, the environment, other horses, cats, dogs, predators, wolves, lions, tigers, human beings. I'll bring this up. Everybody listening and watching has had an experience where you pet a dog and you're loving its, especially around the back of its ears and its top of its neck, and it loves it. Now, this is a dog you've never met, total stranger. So you don't have a relationship based in mutual trust and respect. You don't. You just met this dog, but it wants you to love it there. And we've all experienced dogs who are insatiable about it. So what they are, they're like greedy little drug addicts. When you're doing that to them, they get oxytocin. Okay. So now, now, if you just hear that, here's a direct analogy. The quote unquote magic with horses and why they look at me the way they do is because when I'm with them, they ultimately go through a process where they end up feeling really good. They like how they feel because I am the closest thing that would relate on a metaphysical level to how I train horses is it's not psychic, it's physical shape shifting, like Sufi dancing, that I use my body to sculpt them, physical contact, and I shape them. Move your ribs from here to here, lower your neck from here to there. And as I shape them, they go through a biochemical response to it that they like. So there's so many analogies, so often great.
It's somatic yoga, like horse yoga.
It is. It's the dance. So
I
you're
can
a dancer.
that in dance shapes.
Yes.
How
so
you feel, or you know, in prayer, so many prayer, bow your head,
Yes. We bow, the horses bow to me and I bow to the horses. And when we do, it feels
beautiful.
good.
The namaste.
Yes. Yes. Namaste right here with my horses.
I have a little drug addict here.
There it is.
Yeah, who he heard what you were saying, and yeah,
Oh my God!
I never realized you were a little drug addict.
Little...
My little cokehead here. I couldn't.
So the beauty of this is
adorable.
It takes a lot of knowledge and skill and practice, but you can get to the point where you're having this incredible athletic physical experience with a horse, a great dance, skiing powder, and the horse feels good and loves it at the same time. So we're both being athletes together. Sometimes it's very soft, sometimes it's really intense, but ultimately the chemistry the horse experiences feels good. These are where sayings like well-rounded and calm and collected or level-headed come from. Those are all horse expressions.
That is really cool. And so the triggers you would avoid are what?
To never be the one that causes that back to hollow out and produce adrenaline.
Yeah,
so
amazing. Learning what will trigger the person you're communicating with and avoiding that.
Not, when you first said avoid the trigger, I'm thinking, well, I don't avoid triggers with horses, but actually, yes, I do, in the sense of never. And this is very specific in biomechanics. When you hear expressions like getting off on the wrong foot, that is literal with horses. As you would literally take it, Deborah, from your history as a dancer. Imagine if you and I are dancing together and we're doing the traditional tango and I'm leading, but all of a sudden I led with the wrong leg.
It's just frustrating. Because I'm doing pretty fancy couples dancing, and I've performed and everything. So starting with the right foot is very fulfilling, and exactly.
So to never in my body movements, there are specific movements that I'm not going to do. Specific specific places. For instance, I'm not going to send a pushing energy. You dance, so to step in, right? I'm stepping in. There's you never drive in like that to the neck or head of a horse. That's a predatory threat. Like we're not supposed to lean over dogs. And people don't realize how often they're doing that
I know.
to
Yeah.
a horse. And the horse, with horses' heads, you literally draw them in. You invite them with a draw back. In dancing, the difference between me pushing into you or drawing back from you. So the best analogy for what I do with horses is it is a dance, both on the ground, moving around them on the ground and in the saddle. It is a dance, and it's not a polka, it's not a two-step. It is as complex as the Argentinian tango to do it well.
Mm-hmm.
So they feel great.
Yeah, I realize, with training and also just cross-culturally, really like how we parent, how we bring people into the world, what we
It
teach
is as
them,
complex
you're like re-parenting a lot of these
well.
horses. You're introducing them to a new way that they can be and that they can be safe. And I've always
Mhm.
felt if only we could, have worldwide, conscious parenting trainings
Mhm.
yeah, but coaching is that when we come to something like your horse training or our love coaching, it's really a whole new learning, this compassion, this empathy, and leaning in with curiosity to understand how the other being ticks and what they need. And yeah, yeah, so important. Oh my gosh, let's see. What else would be fun to unpack with you? Um, how does your equestrian coaching align with universal spiritual principles? You that like I'm just thinking, what would you want to say to that?
Well, the obvious ones on the surface we've already discussed. They are they are our responsibility. Some people will use a horse as a tool just to satisfy their ego. That is there to a certain degree in all of us. I mean, that was certainly there when I was a young man. That was prevalent. So first, as we've already talked about in terms of universal spiritual principles, would be, for me, horses are a self-discipline in compassion. Not just talking about it, doing it, practicing it. Compassion, empathy, um, life skills of focus balanced with awareness. They need us to lead. You were just talking about parenting. I'll get strong now and say for a lot of I've worked with a lot of very psycho-spiritual people who have horses, and what they struggle with is they always want it to be nice and soft, and that's not natural to the horse. And a horse will kind of peck at people just to find out if you have the ability to say no, no, don't, no. Look, yeah, with horses, you have to be a force to be reckoned with, but nothing to be afraid of. So they require us. They if we choose to, they're an opportunity for us to come into balance. So we've got some people who only live in the lower chakras. Well, guess what? It's time to discover some compassion, empathy, love, patience, sensitivity, and develop your intuition.
Yeah.
And then other people who are only living in the upper chakras, and guess what? Come down. Yep, come down from the
Get
clouds.
grounded. Yeah.
Get rooted like a tree and stand your ground, because this horse is going to mess with you if you don't. And why I say that, again, these are just like esoteric words, but principles. But here's something I think people could relate to. I saw Scott's response to this when I brought it up on Saturday Night Live. The horse is a prey animal. It's the cousin to the deer. It is not like our dog. It is not like our cat. Dogs and cats are predators. Horses are prey. So a horse in its DNA can't trust you unless you're a shepherd. It has to know that, yeah, you are sensitive and have empathy and compassion and sensitivity, but it also needs to know that if a lion or a wolf shows up, you can take care of it.
That's
So,
cool.
so here it is. It's Easter. The ultimate is horses are a spiritual practice in balancing your inner lion with your inner lamb.
I
It
love
is. It
that.
is about the balance between predator and prey and male and female, and being a being who is a force to be reckoned with, nothing to be afraid of. We all want to be loving and spiritual,
Hmm.
but someone's got to do something about that president. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it comes down to this: a horse can't truly trust you unless it knows you have the power to protect it. So truly trust you. So a lot of times people with horses, they live in a bubble. They get to live in that illusion that as long as I stay in a very specific comfort zone with my horse, and my horse is not triggered by the environment. So like I can ride my horse at home in my indoor arena, but I can't ride it down the trail. My horse has too much anxiety out on the trail. Well, that anxiety in that horse is a reflection of the fact that it just doesn't feel confident out there with just you. That's a tough, tough lesson for some people to hear. And yet it's a discipline where you can find that. And that's what I mean again by that calloused heart. To be strong, to be a spiritual warrior, to be strong, to quest for the strength that can protect and provide hope. Yeah.
Yeah. That is that. Yes. So strong, and it's such an example of, really honoring the strong masculine and
It's
and the
both.
strong feminine,
That's good.
and the also deep sensitive masculine and deep sensitive feminine, and having boundaries with compassion. Yeah. Having
One of those books
clear.
I read as a kid was The Razor's Edge by
Uh-huh.
Somerset Maugham. Some people may have seen. Bill Murray made a movie.
Bill Murray made the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I loved the whole symbolism of the razor's edge. That's how fine the balance is between the masculine and the feminine, and the predator and the prey. The ability to lead and follow. It is that fine.
Yes, at the
Yeah.
still point there, the dance is.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, this is so what an amazing thing. I'd like to have a whole show just on my dance work related to
Yeah.
your work with horses. Let's see. Yeah, we've
I
covered
call it
like four.
xenology. When we
It's
look for the
what?
common thread, I call it xenology. When we
Xenology.
look for the common truth, the thread in everything, where dance is music, is sailing, is riding, is skiing. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, just really understanding our creative flow and how it evolves, and oh my gosh, yeah. So,
I have a
you
question, actually,
even,
Deborah.
what's your, yes, Scott?
Yeah, if you want, because it looks like you're kind of swimming through your questions, and um, you know, you're 60 years old. You've been around, and I'd love to hear your perception, because obviously it's a powerful time on our planet. A lot of change is going on, and I'd really love to just ask you, really, kind of man to man, brother to brother, soul to soul. How do you see things? How do you see our world? How do you see the big picture?
Um, I'm a metaphysicist, so I have no problem with it. I think it's process. It's process. It's evolution of our species. Um, all of these spiritual, shall I say, cliches and metaphysical cliches, they're all true.
Mhm.
That's how they became so cliche.
Right.
And to me, the darker it appears, the brighter the promise of, okay, this is when beings change. Not until. This is when beings change. So I do believe that we are in a period of awakening. Not necessarily from sleep, but from illusions. The illusion of the material world, the illusion of the material consumer world. COVID has hit a lot of people, but also a lot of people are going, you know what? It's a quieter world. And people's priorities are shifting. I believe it is a time. I could say this. I do believe in these biblical prophecies and biblical statements because they're true. And things like this is a time when the wheat is being separated from the chaff. This is a time, depending upon your own individual evolution as a being. For some people, we are going into hell, and for some people, we are going into heaven, and for some people, they're just kind of wasting their time in purgatory and in between. We're at that time where the world is what you make of it as an individual.
Yeah.
As an individual spiritual being. People say to me, and I laugh when they do, when they'll say, oh, you're so lucky. And I'll say, no, it's the residue of hard work, spiritual hard work. I'm a serendipitist. But people go, it's amazing that all that came together. Well, you know what? It's process. I've been working at this for a while now. So when you ask what's going on in the world, I believe evolution is happening, but evolution can be painful.
Yeah.
So I think it's a beautiful thing. I think if I was a 20 or a 30-year-old right now, I would be fighting a righteous fight of indignation against the failure in leadership in this world. But I'm not anymore. I'm 60 now. And now, no, I'm just working on my own self. Yeah.
When you're working on your own self, are you, what kind of meditation do you do now currently? Like daily, what kind of daily practices do you do that you find nourish you or,
Every morning before I get out of bed, I meditate. My routine for decades has been 1 cup of coffee, then meditation. I oscillate back and forth between what some would call meditation, some would call repeating mantras,
yeah,
or prayer. I slip, it's fluid in between the three. But I don't get out of bed until that's done. No matter, it's extreme self-discipline that can be as short as 15 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour and a half.
yeah,
But that's every morning, no matter what. I am old enough, and I have been on this journey long enough that I would almost say, when am I not meditating?
yeah, right.
Because I very much am a believer in the practice of active meditation. So the horse, when I'm working with horses, it's active meditation. I did a long drive today. I spent 7 hours driving through the mountains, and most of it was active meditation.
Yeah, beautiful.
When am I not meditating? When something's triggered me. And then all of a sudden the monkey brain is going, blah, blah, blah. I would say the vast majority of the time, though, I'm in a meditative state.
I can really relate. And I love that. I asked you because I like inspiring the audience with what are daily practices we can do, that support our audience. And for me, I've been doing transcendental meditation since I was 20 and I'm about your age. And so I feel like as we meditate, some people say, well, you don't need to do that. Or, I just want to do it when I'm running. And there are lots of different ways to meditate, of course. But when we meditate, again, it's training the muscle of the brain to be focused and still and calm down. And then there is a transcendence. I really know how to go into empty mind. After
Mhm.
all these years of,
Yeah.
40 years of meditating, I
Mhm.
can go really empty. And then it does become more like we're doing it all day long unless we get triggered.
Yeah.
And then what do we do if we get triggered? How do we come back? I mean, yeah,
Breathing.
breathing. I was going to say, I use breath right away, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, yes. And even in dance, learning new dances, I'm so aware of my breath in harmony with my movements and, kinesthetic awareness of every single square inch of my body, which I've been doing for my whole life, actually, since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
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 So,
The
yeah,
work with the horses requires that kinesthetic awareness for every square centimeter of your body. And whether it's a pushing energy coming out of it, a drawing energy coming out of it, or a blocking energy coming out of it, it's intense because you're
yeah.
sending that into the horse.
So
We have
you're
a,
on a
we have
ranch
a
now?
couple of we have a
Oh,
couple of questions from the
Sure.
audience, so I'd love to really include them. So
yeah.
I'm going to give you both questions. They're both, of course, for Chris. Chris, how do you convince the horse that you can protect it from danger? And then we also are going to want to know how to get in touch with you after tonight, because people are wanting to talk to you directly. So those are our two questions for you.
Thank you, Scott.
That's a great question. In terms of how do I convince, I believe the question was, a horse that I can protect it. Okay, I have to go into a little 3-minute lecture to answer that, but
Absolutely, take your time.
we've all seen how dogs and cats will compete with each other. They literally wrestle. And we have sayings like top dog.
Right.
And when you watch dogs and cats, the friendly ones actually playing with each other,
Mhm.
when they're playing, they're playing the ability to capture prey. It's practicing capturing. Playing fetch is practicing capturing. When we've all seen when two dogs get into a real fight, it's head to head, throat to throat, all on. One's going to pin the other down. So predators get together and practice their ability to capture prey. Prey animals, horses, do the exact opposite. They practice avoiding being captured. Now, when you think about that, when you look at the dogs in the land of predators, and I want to say here, predator is not bad. You just had your dog out. I've got a lion tattooed over my chest. I love my dog. And predator's got a bad name. Our culture has appropriated the term predator and turned it into a bad thing.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put that out there. So dogs in the world of predators, it's pretty much a given that the bigger dog wins when they compete. So take that into the human realm. You don't put a heavyweight boxer in the ring with a lightweight boxer. So predators use strength and muscle to capture prey. That's what it's about. Prey animals avoid it. Now, in the world of horses, all horse people know, they've seen it, that it isn't the biggest horse that's quote unquote dominant in a herd of horses. In fact, very often it's the smaller horses. So it's got nothing to do with physical stature. How horses compete is they develop each other's early warning system. They practice situational awareness. So it's who sees the predator first, who sees it first. So horses challenge each other's spatial awareness. So Scott, if you look at me for just a second, I'm about to flip my nose up at you. Now, if you are above me in the hierarchy of our herd and I did that to you, you would respond. Doesn't mean you have to bite me or kick me, but you'd let me know, I saw that.
Ah.
So you hear sayings like nose out of joint. I just got my nose out of joint. I flexed my cheek at you. Bent out of shape. I'm bending my ribs into you. So horses don't even have to make that actual physical contact, which they will do. But horses, hey, do you see this? Here's a little disrespectful gesture. Do you see it? So horses, if you know the code, they have a very complex code of body language signals and behavior. A lot more than even, I train the trainers, I coach the professionals, I teach in the universities to the veterinarians. So there's way more here than this industry realized in terms of decoding the body language, gestures, signals, postures, how they relate to the environment. So the horses see from me that when they send the most subtle little signal, I see it and I respond appropriately as a force to be reckoned with, nothing to be afraid of. And so what brings them this great level of respect is they all know that, boy, if a lion showed up, he'd be the first one to see it.
Right.
So here is an illusion of in the horse world. Horse people think that horses are more aware of the environment than humans are. And I'll tell you what, right now, a horse is not more aware of the environment than a truly indigenous native person is. If we pulled someone out of the Amazon that has never been on the internet, they can be just as aware of their environment as a horse, and more so. That's how they're able to capture prey. Remember what the whole concept is, right? So as a human being living truly native, you'd have to be so at one with your environment that you could get close enough to a prey animal to kill it.
Right.
So the horses see in me that I'm more present, that I'm more aware than most human beings,
Right.
horse people. And that brings them that profound level of respect and trust. They see a shepherd. When they challenge my boundaries, they're unequivocal. I always say no to what needs to be said no to, always. So if you are always the force to be reckoned with, nothing to ever be afraid of, then you are the safest place to be.
Clarity, clarity, clarity.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
that is so beautiful.
that's,
There's so much more to explore there.
Being the leader of a herd is like being a lifeguard on the beach. Just think about a lifeguard sitting up on that stand, and there's no focus. There's constant, no zoom in focus, constant wide angle awareness for the situation. And that a good lifeguard will be where they need to be, just like that. And that's, I also often use the analogy of a sentinel. Imagine that we all want to sleep. We're exhausted. We're soldiers at war, and we've been in battle all day, and we haven't slept for days, and we need to sleep. And Scott, you're on guard duty. Question is, do I trust your awareness?
Yep.
Will Scott see the enemy coming? And if I know you well enough to know he does not fall asleep on the job, he's not going to be looking at his phone. If Scott's on duty, Scott's on duty. I trust that. That's how horses behave. That's how horses think.
Boy, it would be tough. I'm on my phone a lot. Good thing I'm not a horse shepherd.
But you get the analogy.
No, it's beautiful.
You wouldn't be on your phone if you were surrounded by enemies.
That's for sure. Right. Unless I was on my phone calling for help.
Calling the cavalry.
We have one more question from the audience, which is really, really good. And then we do need to find out how to reach you after this. So Phil writes, 5 years ago, I had a runaway accident while driving my pony. We were coming back from a beautiful autumn drive when he gave a little hop. He didn't spook, but he just gave a little hop and then all of a sudden went into a full out run at top speed until we hit a metal cable box.
Mm.
I flew out, went unconscious, and woke up in the fetal position on the ground. My pony ran with the cart attached then, stopped, and ran back to the barn. I've not driven him since that day. We're still together and I love him, but I'm afraid to get back into the cart by myself and drive him. How might we get back to driving again? Are you available to either even come to work with me and my pony?
Where is
Well,
Phil
this
located?
is interesting because that particular experience for that pony is one of the more traumatic things that can happen to a horse. The old saying, never put the cart before the horse, is because if a cart horse, carriage horse, wagon horse does end up running away with it, it becomes a hugely traumatic experience because they can't get away from the thing chasing them. That's what it becomes in their mind. They're a prey on, and they just run for their lives, and the cart is chasing them. Once that has happened, it is quite a journey to get them back so that they're calm and confident to be in the harness and be hitched again. Is it possible? Yes, I've done it lots. That actually was the first quote unquote claim to fame, was working with this very issue, which is what surprised me by the question, because it's rare. Not many people drive anymore to begin with, let alone have that kind of an experience. Is there a first name so I can refer?
Yeah, his name is Phil.
Phil. So Phil, my heart goes out to your brother. A lot, yeah. It's a horrible experience.
It's Phyll, so it's a woman.
Oh,
Woman.
oh, my apologies, Phil. I'm sure you can
I
understand.
was noticing the spelling, and then
Yeah, I didn't get to see the spelling, Phil, or I would have noticed. So I can make a very good educated guess as to why it happened. Because this is not uncommon. The adjustments of how the harness fits the horse. The rigging is like sailing on a boat. There's a lot to it. How the harness is actually fit to the horse, and then how that harnessed horse or pony is fit to the hitch. There's a lot of adjustments here. And very specifically, I'm guessing that what happened is your brakes are too loose, that the britchin was too loose and the brake straps were too long. Now, to give you an analogy of what happened, imagine you're driving a car, pulling a trailer, driving a truck, pulling a trailer, and your hitch came undone, and all of a sudden that trailer hits you. The trailer itself runs into you. When the pony had that little hop and jumped forward, the harness wasn't, and the brake straps onto the shafts were not adjusted well enough for your pony to elastically absorb it. So what do I mean by elastically absorb it? Think of like an elastic around your waist. That has to be just right, so it's comfortable. Too loose, the pants fall down, and too tight, it's uncomfortable. So what happened? He jumped forward when he had his little spook, and instead of taking the cart with him, there was a delay. It lagged behind, and then it surged forward and hit him. And that's when he takes off, because the cart is attacking him all of a sudden. And throughout his run, here's his hindquarters running away, and here's the cart. It kept hitting him.
Oh,
my God.
So it becomes a very traumatic experience. Phil, where do you live?
I have invited her actually into the Oh, here we go. She says, I've driven him in this harness and cart for 5 years without any problems. Everything fit fine. We had just experienced a fine hour-and-a-half drive. Nothing frightened him before he gave a little hop, but your explanation makes so much sense. I was frightened to death, and I live in Vermont.
Ah, that's a long ways from British Columbia where I am.
Yeah, right.
You need to go back to a step-by-step training. And what I can tell you, Phil, I'm on the other side of the continent, but we could arrange for some video coaching, video conferencing together. You can do something like just be out with him on Facebook, hold your camera, and I could help you adjust your harness differently. And we could go through a few steps together to see if his mind is ready to do it again, and look at some safety steps in the process along the way. So I'd be happy to work with you. That earlier question, how to find me, easiest way is my website, chrisirwin.com.
Yes, and I put that there in the chat, but it's Chris with the CHRIS Irwin IRWIN.com, and we can also put that on my page and on the Love Coach Academy page in the comments, so people
Yeah.
can find it in the comments under the videos. And I mean, there's so much to explore with you, Chris. I really want to invite you on again, and yet we need to wrap it up now. So we'll help
Facebook
you.
too. I should have mentioned Facebook. I'm sorry. I'm on Facebook.
Yes, Facebook.
Easy to find me on Facebook.
And I am going to real quickly just go to his homepage. And there's a lot there. And again,
Hey, there's a carriage right there.
there
Thank
it
you so
is.
much, Scott. Thank you.
Chris Irwin.
Look at all that. Oh my gosh, so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Wow.
Uh,
A beautiful horse. Horses are so, I just want to honor horses as we look at this, the beauty of horses, just their regal presence, their amazing bodies, their musculature, those big, huge eyes that are so sensitive, and they're
They have the
made.
biggest eyes of any land animal.
Is that true? Really? Oh my gosh. So big eyes, kind of like giraffes, Yeah. Yeah. Amazing horses. So, I mean, I just know a lot of us just adore horses, and so many people, I'm sure, listening adore horses. And we are so happy you're here. And Universal Heart Wisdom happens every Monday. It's not going to be next Monday just because it's my birthday weekend, but every other Monday we will be flourishing, and I have an amazing lineup of guests. And so look for the announcements on my page, Deborah Haviland, and on Love Coach Academy. And if you want to, connect with Chris, you can go to his Facebook page or his website, which will be here. And please share this video out to your friends. And we are so grateful that you've been here at Universal Heart Wisdom, and we hope you will come again. Thank you. And you
Thank
can reach me. I just want to say you can reach me for love coaching and healthy lifestyle coaching on my Facebook page, Deborah Haviland, or on Love Coach Academy. Yes.
Thank you so much, Chris. I learned so much from you. And by the way, Phil sent a PS. She said that she has become closer to her pony since the accident. They do lots of happy groundwork, and they're very close. So there is that.
That's good.
I'm happy to hear that, Phil. Good. Just keep going. Keep going.
All right. God's blessings, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you, Chris.
Much love and appreciation to you all.
Yes, thank you for your wonderful work. And thank you, Scott, for
Sure.
your wonderful work. And I'm glad we're all out there bringing the message. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.